Hey guys, welcome to another video for the Jimny gearbox. So progress so far is we've got the gearbox out. If you haven't seen that video, be sure to check that one out. I'll link it somewhere up here. So yeah, today we are going to start stripping the gearbox. I hope in this video we're going to get as far as getting it totally stripped down and actually seeing what the issue is, and then that gives me time to order the parts. Then the next video will be probably fitting the parts and quickly refitting it into the vehicle. So what we're going to do, while I've got it out here, I'm going to give it a bit of a degrease, bit of a clean, so it's nice and clean while we're working on it, and then when I put it back in, it's all a nice and clean gearbox. So this is just the degreaser that I used to degrease the engine bay. Oh, and then we'll give it a spray down, we'll let it soak for a minute, then I'm going to agitate it, give it a spray more, and then wash it down. So hopefully it'll be a nice clean gearbox when we're working on it. So I'm just going to make sure I get it all covered. I've covered up the hole where the gear lever goes into, because I don't want to really mix this degreaser in there, even though we're going to strip it out anyway. Okay, let's let it sit. So I'm just going to start agitating this. So it's starting to look pretty good now. Just needs a bit more time on it. It's not perfect. This brush still isn't really stiff enough, I don't think. But I guess there's probably 30 odd years of gunk on this gearbox anyway. So it'll take a little while to get clean. But it is starting to look really nice. Okay, so it's later the same day now. It's been drying off for most of the day. I guess it's time to start stripping it down. I don't actually know how to do this, so I'm just gonna start from, I have quickly watched a video, and I think we're basically starting from this end of the gearbox and we'll work back this way, slowly stripping it all down. I know this splits in half here, but I think we have to take off this part, then there's a section here, and then this part splits in half, I think. So yeah, anyway, let's start splitting it. First things first, I'm gonna take out the reverse switch sensor. So we'll just take that off. Set that to one side. Okay, so that is the reversing switch. Now, what are we going to do? I think we'll probably remove this top cover first. So let's do that. So it looks like it's just a load of 12mm bolts holding this top piece on. So we'll make a start and do them. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to make a cardboard template, and I'm going to put holes in it so I can remember where all the bolts go. So I've put the front of this, the front as in direction of the gearbox, that's the front. We're doing shift to top, so that's this, and I think there's about 8 bolts that hold this in, so we'll take this off and go from there. Okay, so I think we've got these all cracked, so we'll just get them all undone. And just make sure that we put them into our cardboard template. Okay, what's this first piece undone? What have we got here? So this looks like the selector. This little nub in here goes inside these forks, and this is the bit that's attached to your gear shifter. Definitely looks like there's been some water ingress in there at some point. Now, whether that was when I was washing it out, I don't believe it to be, but anyway, this will get washed out before we put it back together, but that's one piece off. So what's next? I think we need to get this whole back end off here now. Okay, so next we're going to take these bolts out around these edges here. I think this whole back end should lift up and out. So let's do that. That's all them cracked, so it should just be a case of undoing these now, and again we'll put them into a lovely template that I've made. There we go. This way we can keep track of where all of the bolts are coming from and where they need to go back in. Okay, that's made it a bit faster. I've already cracked them, so I'm happy that the drill's not going to be putting too much force on it. So, but it just gets them out a little bit quicker, which is good. Speeds up the process. Okay, so that's all the bolts out now. So hopefully, see how well this comes off. So it looks like there's a little tab here, which I think I can get my bar underneath to wedge it, which I can. It's coming up. Okay. That is that one up and out. That wasn't too bad. So what can we see? Can we see anything interesting? Not at the moment. All looks fairly uneventful. What's next? I think we need to get this next piece off, which looks like there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. But I'm not sure if that will come off without taking all of these gears off. Okay, so I've had a quick look at the manual. I think what I need to do is remove this bearing and this gear, and then I think this assembly should come up and out. I think, but I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. So do piece by piece. You know, that's the one good thing about, I mean, I'm recording this, but if you were doing this at home, I recommend taking pictures along the way so you can remember how things go back together. But first things first is take off this clip. Okay, one circlip off. Okay, it's free now. Ooh. Okay, nice. One bearing off. Looks like it's got a spacer on the top here as well, so we'll just bear that in mind. Looks like also there's a spacer underneath, I think. Yeah, so I wonder if I can get that out. This is a bit more challenging to get out because the type of circlip is not one where you can get pliers on. So this one is just a bit of brute force to pop it off, to be honest. Something like that. It's more of a clip than a circlip. Hopefully this doesn't go ping and flying off somewhere. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. So over here, you can't quite see it, but over here, I'm laying it out in the order that I'm taking it off. So when it comes to put it back together, it should be relatively easy. Okay, same thing again. Need to get the pullers on this. Okay, we're going to use this puller for this. It's coming off pretty nicely, actually. There we go. Right, that's another bearing off. There we go. Right, that's him off. Another bearing gone. And I think this gear should come off. And then we've got a spacer and then a gear. Right, that's that shaft done. So I think if we now undo these 4 bolts, all of this should come away, but I'm wondering if we need to start taking some of this gearing off. I'm not sure. Okay, there's a shim. It goes on the bottom of that bearing. Right, let's get these 4 bolts undone. Okay, so hopefully that should be these 2 undone. Now I believe that's all that holds this piece on because it's actually sandwiched. through all of this. So let's take these bolts out. Where are we going to put them? Right, and I think this piece should just pop off now. Is there somewhere I can get my bar into? Ah, so it looks like there might be one bolt here that I need to undo as well on the outside. Yeah, so there's one bolt on the outside that you also need to take off just at the back here. Now this piece should just pop off, I think. Okay, I think I've got it. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Just needs a bit more persuasion. There we go. Okay. I think what the next job to do is actually split down here. So the gearbox now splits in half and opens up this way, and that should expose everything we need to see in here, I believe. So let's get this rolled over. There's still a little bit of oil in there. Let's get that drained out so we don't make a mess. I think what we need to do is probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts. From what I can see, 6 bolts, and this whole top half should come away and expose everything. So I guess let's start doing those. Two bolts here as well, I think. I think we can, yeah, that's already popped off like that. Hey, it's me from the future. If you're following along in this process of stripping down the gearbox, I have made a critical error in stripping it down. It was a I'm going to blame it on a mistranslation, but it could also be a misreading of mine, or perhaps didn't read it. Please, 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 whatever you do, before you open the gearbox housing itself, make sure you take off the clutch release bearing, because if you don't, you will break something. So you can catch up now with where I'm at and what I'm going to do about it. Oh, okay. Well, that was a bit of a challenge, but I think what happened is I think what made it so difficult is the sealant that had been applied was really stuck on where the kind of clutch bearing is up the front end here. But I think, yeah, I think I've got it now. Okay, so this should just come off. Oh no. Okay, so good news and bad news. Good news is I've found the reason it's stuck in second gear. Now this is the selector fork. As you can see, these two are fixed, and this one is very much loose, so that needs replacing. So that should fix the issue with being stuck in second gear. The other issue is first gear. Now I believe first gear is way down here somewhere. Now I'm not gonna be able to see much until I get all this pack split. So yeah, that's gonna be at a later date, but I believe I'll see some worn parts. The biggest problem I've got now is I thought it was the sealant that kept this all together, but I now realise it's not. I've done a big boo-boo here. When I was splitting this, I didn't realise I needed to pull the bearing release, clutch release bearing all the way forwards and off, so that this would then split away. I didn't and I have now broken the housing. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that, because I'm not in a position to be able to weld. So as you can see on this part, this should go here. I'm not in a position where I can weld aluminium. So I don't know what to do. Probably gonna have to find a replacement top piece here. I don't know if you can get them. That will be a problem for another day though. Now I've got it this far, I can see what the issue is, certainly with the second gear. I need to see what I can do with this piece up here. A little bit angry with myself actually that I'd done that, but hey, I guess that's learning, isn't it? Yeah, I'm gonna go cry myself into the corner now. Okay, so we are back on the gearbox. I've calmed down now and I'm in a much better state. We'll give that a good clean before we actually put it back together. Yeah, we need to look at what we're gonna do, not about this part. This part is, so this part I need to replace the synchros, I believe. Which are these brass pieces in here, if you can see that. So let's move this part of the gearbox out of the way, because we're not going to do anything with that today. Today we are going to look at this part of the gearbox. So what are we looking at here? So there's two issues with this. We have a broken selector fork, which is here. It does have signs of wear, but I think it's within tolerance. It's not actually that bad. And also this housing, which I wonderfully broke, which wasn't my best move. So for the selector fork, I believe the selector fork, from about 20 minutes of Googling, I think the selector fork is possibly obsolete. It's a part that you can't get anymore. Now I believe there's a superseding part, but I've read that potentially you have to drill some holes to make it actually fit. It's not a direct swap. However, it is steel, so I think I'm going to attempt to weld it. So for the selector fork, we're going to remove that, get it out, and then we'll look into welding that up. So hopefully that will be that one solved. For the broken housing, where did I put it? Here. So for this part that I broke, now this part isn't actually experiencing any forces as such. There's no real pressure on it. So I don't have the ability to aluminium weld here at present. So that kind of leaves me with two options. Option number one is get a whole new casing. Now, as far as I'm aware, you can't get a casing on its own. So I would have to buy a whole gearbox, a second-hand gearbox. You know, if I did that, then I don't really need the internals. So I don't need to get a kind of overhauled one or anything. I can just get one, even if they say it's broken or the synchros are broken, it needs overhauling. That's not an issue because I only need the casing. So as long as the casing's in good condition, doesn't bother me. So that's one option. On the plus side is if I did do that, hopefully it would have a selector fork in there, which I can have as a spare in case this one doesn't survive the welding. So that's option number one, but that's gonna, you know, that's gonna cost roughly, it's gonna be £100 plus, 100 quid plus. However, I've opted, one of my good friends has suggested this, JB Weld. Now, I've used something similar, kind of chemical metal, previously before, and it worked pretty good, but I've never used JB Weld. I have no experience with this whatsoever, but I assume it's the same kind of thing. It's got high temperature, looks up to 287 degrees C temperature, a lot of pressure on there, and I've had a quick Google, quick look, and it looks pretty strong stuff. So I'm gonna give it a go. I've kind of got nothing to lose. It's already broken, so I'm gonna try and fix it with this stuff. First things first, let's get this stuff on. Or no, first thing first, let's get that fork out. Then we'll look at this. So this fork section is held in, by the looks of it, there's a plate on the back here that holds all three forks in together. So I'm gonna take that off. That should allow me to slide it out. Now, there is a ball, I believe, here. Underneath this section, there's a ball, which I need to make sure doesn't fall out. The forks are actually, they have a clevis pin in there. So I just need to knock that clevis pin out first, and then that will allow, hopefully, this whole shaft to pull out. So let's get some punches. So hopefully you can get a nice view of this. So I'm just gonna now I assume it goes out that way. Looks like I've messed myself up here. So looks like in this position, it looks like there's a cutout underneath that will allow the clevis pin to go all the way through. So, okay, yeah. So that is the clevis pin out now. You can see this part is free to move now. So that should allow us to pull this whole shaft out and then pop it off. So let's get this plate undone. That's the next step, I think. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this plate off. I'm gonna spin it maybe. I think it should spin round, which means I should have really left this in. Leave this one loose. Take this one out. So there should be probably a spring and a ball in there, which kind of keeps it located. Or kind of lets it slot in and out of that position. So if we move that plate up now, so that plate can freely come around, and then hopefully this should just pull. There we go. So it's pulled through, and I think it's now at the end. Okay, yeah, so that's, how well can you see that? Yeah, pretty good. That should just pull through. Yeah, so that ball just sprung up there. I'll get you in for bed to look in a minute. So there is the fork. There is part of the fork, and then here is the collar that it sits on. So yeah, you can see, I think they're just pressed in there. Oh no, so it has actually cracked this. I don't know how well you can see that. So the selector fork, I don't know how well you can see that, but the selector fork has got a crack in it, but I still think we can try and weld this up. Okay, now I'm going to push this back in now, because I don't want to lose that ball in there. But I'm guessing I probably need to push the ball down. Okay, so I've pushed that ball down. That's back in its correct place. And then I'm going to flick this bracket back over, and we're going to put this bolt back in just to keep everything together. I don't want it to go, anything to fall out of place. That's the one thing with the, I mean, this is the first time I've done a gearbox. So I'm kind of learning as I go, but I think everything needs to be in its rightful place to work. So I just want to make sure this stays as it should. So here we are. There's where the clevis pin went into here. And that is the selector fork. If we can get this in focus. Looks okay, but that is cracked there. I don't think you can see very well on the camera. You can just maybe. It's cracked just there. So I still believe we can weld this up. It doesn't actually look like it's welded on. It's almost like they're push fit or something. It's not quite right. Something's not right there. But yeah, anyway, that's gonna go into there. So now let's look at fixing this piece here. Okay, so my task is to JB weld this onto here. Now the good thing is I believe it's split at a really nice clean break, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get that to marry back up how it should be. Yeah, that's a really nice clean break. So in fact it almost holds itself back in there, to be honest. So I just need to get some JB weld made up, paste in there, and then push this all back together. Hopefully get it to hold in there while it sets. Okay, well, so I've cleaned up these pieces already, so they are ready to go. Cleaned them up with some acetone, So that should be the best thing I can give it. It's a 2-pack kind of bonding agent. So I'm going to put a small amount of the black one, a small amount of the white one, mix it together, paste it on, and then stick my piece on. That is the plan. I just need to read the instructions. I will read them this time and check out how many parts black to how many parts white I need to make. So yeah, I'm going to do that right now. I've got my mixer. It's just a 3D printed scraper I've made. So let's start making this up. I don't think we need a great deal, but I'm not really too sure. I think that should be enough. Maybe too much, but I'd rather have too much at the moment than too little. That's one piece. Now we need the hardener. So once you've mixed this, you've got about 25 minutes to kind of get it in there and on there. So that's about equal parts. So now the task is to mix it so it kind of becomes an equal consistency and color. Okay, that's nice consistency. Now I'm just gonna spread it on. It doesn't need to be too thick because the gap I'm closing up isn't that thick itself. Okay, that's good. Just want to make sure I've not got any coming in on the inside. Okay, put that to one side, and now, oh, where did I put the bit that I'm putting on there? Ah, I've gone blind, it's here. Okay, so now, something like that. Well, that's on there now, so I just need to leave it to cure. It's going to take, well, it takes 24 hours total to fully cure. So yeah, we'll leave that as it is now. Let's have a look at this fork. Okay, so I have the piece clamped up. You can see the hairline crack there. I've cleaned it all up now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tack it, get my settings set up, and then I'm going to give it a few buzzes. I'm not going to go crazy with it. Maybe just a few tacks around the edges. I don't need to fully weld it all the way around, I don't think, but I will put some weld in this crack here just to give it a bit more strength back. So yeah, let's try it. Okay, is it pretty? No. Will it hold? Yes, I think so. I just want to get one on the back edge here, so I'm just going to spin it around. Okay, so with that welded up, it's time to get it back in. So the same process, take this plate, move it out the way, pull this back, make sure the ball doesn't fly off into the galaxy, and hopefully we should be able to just slide this back on, providing it's not warped too much or closed up that hole. Okay, that's in. Go to the next position. Okay, right, let's get this pin in. So get a new pin and put it in there.